Well, we turn now to this. All week, we are continuing to showcase Arizona and the rich history for State 48. And today, we take a closer look at downtown Phoenix, which has had, as you know, some major changes, and especially so in recent years.
Still holding on to some of that charm, though. The valley skyline full of high-rise buildings. But as ABC 15's Justin Pizarro shows us, historic landmarks are all around the new structures, if you know where to find them.
The postmaster out of that building right there.
When you walk through downtown Phoenix with Steve Schumacher, he knows all about how Phoenix has transformed into one of the largest cities in the United States.
All in the late 20s, so while the rest of the country was getting ready for the Depression and so forth, since Phoenix wasn't so closely tied to Wall Street and it was primarily an agricultural town, the booming continued.
In the 1920s, the population of Phoenix was incredibly small. There were only about 29,000 people, but city leaders started marketing Phoenix to big cities in the Midwest and East Coast.
And they would try to get people to come out here, and one of the ways they did that was to try to get rid of the adobe and build very ornate buildings.
The city started to look very different.
The ladies built an opera house down here, again, try to for their own entertainment, but also to project to the rest of the country that, hey, Phoenix is not really a one-horse, cactus-ridden town. We have some sophistication as well.
Some of the buildings are still with us today. The San Carlos Hotel was built in the 1920s. At the time, it was the place to stay. When celebrities of the day like Marilyn Monroe and Clark Gable came to town, they stayed here. Steve says this portion of Central Avenue around the San Carlos actually looks somewhat the same as it did nearly 100 years ago. Across the street from the hotel is the Professional Building. At the time, some of the city's most successful professionals did business here. It is now dwarfed by the former Chase Tower, but it used to be the city's tallest.
It's one thing to step into a Wells Fargo building and look at all the glass and the wonderful tile floors and stuff, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to walk into the Professional Building in the lobby and understand that that was the first bank that made widespread loans to build places like Maryvale and Paradise Valley and a lot of the different homes. And that happened right there in that building.
A few blocks away is the old Fry's Building, built in 1885. It is now Marley's Sports Bar, but it's one of the first commercial buildings in the city. It used to be a grocery store, saloon, and barber shop. Steve has a passion for not only knowing about the history of these buildings, but he's trying to keep them. It wasn't until the mid-1980s the city established the Historic Preservation Office and Commission. Right now, in downtown Phoenix, there's only 48 buildings dating back about 100 years.
If you don't think 48 is very many, in the mid-90s there were 103 buildings, and so now we're down to 48.
Steve says part of preserving the city's history is knowledge. The more people know, the more they can appreciate how far we've come and hopefully preserve the history. And a big part of that is teaching young people.
But I know I can teach young people about the history, get them involved, get them excited, do it in a compelling way so that when they get to be 30, 35, 40 and they're put in a position to decide if the San Carlos is going to get knocked down or not, they go, no, wait a minute. There's a lot of history there. Let's see what we can do to preserve it.
In downtown Phoenix, Justin Pizarro, ABC 15, Arizona.
I think you have to have that perspective, though, to realize, the value of our history. And this is why we share these stories.
Yeah, and the fact, Marilyn Monroe stayed at the San Carlos Hotel. If
those walls could talk.
Right? So many stories there. And Justin's right, as long as you know where to look. And he's
That's it.
helping us with that. Great story, Justin. In the meantime,